Poppies by Mary Oliver. The poppies send up their orange flares, swaying in the wind. Their congregations are a levitation of bright dust, of thin and lacy leaves. There isn't a place in this world that doesn't, sooner or later, drown in the indigos of darkness. But now, for a while, the roughage shines like a miracle as it floats above everything with its yellow hair. Of course, nothing stops the cold, black, curved blade from hooking forward. Of course, loss is the great lesson. But I also say this, that light is an invitation to happiness, and that happiness, when it's done right, is a kind of holiness, palpable and redemptive. Inside the bright fields, touched by their rough and spongy gold, I am washed and washed in the river of earthly delight. And what are you going to do? What can you do about it, deep blue night?
Softly falling, the air is still in the silence of my room. I hear a voice softly calling. If I could only have you near to breathe a sigh or two, I would be happy just to hold the hands I love on this winter night with you. The smoke is rising in the shadows overhead. My glass is almost empty. I read again between the lines upon the page the words of love you sent me.
If magic and prayer require an intention and an action, then the element of fire is both. Barring lightning or lava, it doesn't just happen. Fire requires effort through its whole life, from its creation to its use, and finally, its suppression. Because of my interest in history and my multiracial heritage, I've invested a lot of time learning how to cook, cater, clean, and curate a hearth kitchen. My hearth kitchen lineage traces to Michael Twitty through Jerome Bias, and they will both tell you that a kitchen is nothing without a proper fire. Fire was so important to a hearth cook that he or she would not allow it to go out. A cold hearth means at least half an hour delay in the morning. And that's if you're lucky and the wood is bone dry. So cooks would bank the fire at night so they'd have hot coals to start with in the morning when they woke before sunrise. The cook, the pitmaster, the distiller, and the laundress were all masters of fire. Without it, no food could be served, no water boiled, no laundry washed, no mash cooked. A fire is really a culmination of additional mediocre tasks. Chopping wood into usable pieces, stacking it correctly so that water doesn't pool and cause it to mildew, carting it into houses and outbuildings and stacking it again, and laying a proper fire. There's a right way and a wrong way, well, many wrong ways, to lay a fire if you intend to work with it all day. It needs to have fuel, airflow, and heat. If you pack the fuel too densely, and it won't have enough oxygen. Use the wrong fuel and it won't strike with enough heat. Lay the fuel incorrectly and it won't burn evenly under your pots and kettles. An even burn is especially important when many dishes must cook simultaneously. Of all the fires we light in our lives as Jews, only two are useless: Hanukkah and Shabbat. We go through the same careful means of preparation. We make sure that our candles are new and that the wicks are clean, and we make sure that we have good matches or lighters to strike the fire. We place them carefully. We make sure that they're not loose in the holder, and we only derive pleasure from them. They're not our means by which to see. They don't burn hot enough to cook anything. They don't last long enough to warm us. They're simply a reminder of, well, everything I talked about on second night. They're a reminder that light defies darkness, that we are not alone, and that little things like candles can make a huge difference. We light Shabbat candles every week. We only light Hanukkah candles for 8 nights. And then what? If you don't continue to feed a fire, it goes out and you have to start over. You have to lay more wood. You have to get on your knees, speak kindly to it, and work to get it to strike again. You set yourself back and you may ruin your meals. If you don't safeguard a flame when you sleep and when you are away, you return to dark, cold ashes. Sound like anything we recite? But, as our sages remind us, while we need to build a fence around the Torah, while we need to speak about these things when we are away, when we're in our house, when we are asleep, when we are awake, we also, it's not incumbent upon us to do absolutely everything ourselves. Throughout human history, there have been fire starters and fire tenders. Fire tenders were central to their community. They're not as showy as fire starting, but the fire was a place where people gathered. The fire tender keeps the red hot center of the community alive, sometimes through action, poking it, stoking it, building it, but often by their presence, watching the flame, making sure that it didn't go out of its boundaries or it didn't go out. Fire tenders passed knowledge. They kept everyone warm and fed. They listened to stories. They told stories. Anyone traveling or lost would have taken great comfort in the sight of a distant fire. Help, rest, maybe home awaited. The communal fire was in Ner Tamid. We are more than a diaspora today. We are a globally fragmented menorah. So many coals burning across the world, some brighter than others, some as strong as metal, only able to reflect the lights of others. For 1 week a year, we take great comfort in seeing one another's flames. And then what? What would it take for us to keep it burning? Don't worry if you don't have it in you. 2024 has been a very long, very intense year. You don't have to be a fire starter all the time. But can you carry the wood? Can you bring it up to the house? Can you stir the pot? Can you shovel fresh coals onto the Dutch oven? Because, baby, we got people to feed. If you're a fire starter, are you getting everything you need to burn evenly? Do the tenders around you know that you are spread too thin and you need more fuel? Or that you need to bank your coals for a minute and just breathe? Just because the one cruise of oil burned 8 times longer than it should have does not mean that you need to burn out. Not everyone is willing or able to bear a torch in the street. And that doesn't make their flame less intense. Tender. How can you best show up, be it in active or passive ways, for the center of your community? For some of us, that's the synagogue or the JCC. For others, it's our Havara or our social groups. For still others, it's creating a welcoming home, or as I call it, setting up a meta tent, a safe place where people can be themselves, be respected and valued, heal, and rekindle their own light. It's a very dark world right now, not just because of winter. But we have a choice. We always have a choice. Do we sleep and let the world smother our flame? Or do we grow hot and bright and transform the darkness? Brené Brown said, "The dark does not destroy light, it defines it. It's our fear of the dark that casts our joy into the shadows." As we approach the pinnacle of this festival that reminds us not to fear, I encourage us to think of ways we can stoke our fires and maintain our joy through the year ahead.